Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about symbolism. So, symbolism is something that represents something else. We have talked about this before when we were in our narrative unit because symbolism can be in narrative stories as well. However, symbolism is really common in poetry and it can be very powerful because by using one thing to represent something else, usually something concrete to represent something abstract, we can get images of the concrete symbol to help us understand the abstract idea that the poet is exploring or trying to communicate. So, one very common symbol is that a dove is often used to represent peace. And today I want to read two poems that both use birds as symbols. And so the first one is called Hope is a Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. So as I read, see if you can let me start again. As I read, see if you can figure out how the bird is being used to symbolize what hope, what is the thing that a bird can do that hope is also doing. So here we go. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Okay. And so by using the bird as a symbol, Emily Dickinson is able to show in the first stanza, so these lines, that hope is something that kind of sings to us. It provides that comfort and tune, and it's always going. So hope is kind of always there in the human condition, which is an interesting claim because sometimes people say, oh, that's without hope, or I don't have any hope. But Emily Dickinson here is saying that hope is there at all times. And she says, in fact, in those situations that seem tough, gale, a storm, it's the sweetest. Hope is even better in tough situations, which is interesting because you think sometimes if everything's good, hope must be even better, but maybe hope is that thing that is you even value more when you absolutely need it. And she also says that it must be an extreme trouble that's going to hurt hope, the little bird. And hope is something that keeps people going. And again, she kind of reconfirms that in the chillest land, and cold can also be used as another symbol or metaphor for something difficult, strangest sea in difficult times, that's where hope is also there. The last two lines are really interesting because by using this idea that it's a bird, that it could ask for crumbs, and she's saying it doesn't ask for crumbs like a bird. This idea that hope doesn't need to be fed, which is interesting, and an interesting claim that hope is ongoing whether or not we want it there. And it's just a very interesting thought when you kind of go through all these things and realize that Emily Dickinson has a very strong opinion on hope here that people could agree or disagree with. And the bird helps us see that clearer and also puts it into our head about a bird in a storm in a way that maybe captures our imagination more than if she had written an essay on this topic of hope. Here is another poem about birds with symbolism. It's called Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. So it says, the free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the cage bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on the dawn bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a cage bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare screams. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the cage bird sings of freedom. And so here, birds again birds are being used to be symbols, but not representing hope, but representing people and the situation they're in. And so the cage bird being any oppressed people. Maya Angelou was writing in the time before the civil rights movement, during the civil rights movement, and after. She lived that. She was around with Malcolm X and Dr. King. And so you can see some of that cultural society coming through here in her poem, saying that the cares and the thoughts of people who experience freedom are much different than those who are caged. And that difference comes from that external cage of society clipping their wings, and why there would be rage, but yet the cage bird still sings, and though it's scared because those things unknown, they long for that freedom, and you can hear it. And so even if you cage the bird, it's still going to sing for freedom. And that's beautiful. There's a lot more we could go into this. We could spend a whole semester on these poems, but I wanted you to see how powerful this can be, because when you're trying to talk about maybe civil rights and equal rights, and you get into these abstract concepts, it's easy to kind of disengage with logic. But by creating this idea of like, I know what a bird outside looks like, and I know what a bird in a cage looks like, and connecting that with the plight of people and what's going on, that just speaks to us as humans in a different way and sticks with us longer and maybe motivates us to go out and change things. Thanks, guys, for talking about symbolism.